the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's be at it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
Listen to all this,
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
There we go. Yay, I see a line bouncing again. Woohoo! So, when I hit start, when I switched from the technical issues screen, or from the buffer screen to the opening 30 seconds, OBS switched my microphone setting to prefer nothing instead of the only microphone I have plugged in. So something's weird there with that, but I fixed it. I had a headset, a gaming headset, plugged into the mic jack the other day, and it wouldn't let me switch from that when I did the news show with the guys. And I'm assuming that I confused the computer because Microsoft. Honestly, I'm fed up enough with Microsoft that Bill Gates can find the biggest piece of architectural work that looks like a butt plug and go fuck himself. I can't express that any more vehemently. But shit like this happens to me all the time.
We will find him too. We will come for him.
Yeah, I am totally sick of you plug a microphone in, or a headset in to listen to something one time, and it switches everything that you have, and then even after you have unplugged that and restarted your computer and everything, it wants to prefer that because mic check.
Alright, I appreciate that you feel the need to explain the technical difficulties, but I'm going to have to cut all this out.
No, I'm just frustrated and expressing my frustration. I'm bitching because women do that. that's you gotta realize I'm still female. Maybe not most of the time, but
here's the hard cut. Do the intro now.
Yeah. So let me switch back to that page. Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 332, cutting the bovine excrement surrounding the Tate case. I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson, and nonsense annihilator, Lauren Brooks. And tonight we're going to dig through a lot of bullshit to find a few scant facts, because there's really not a lot of factual stuff published about this. There's a lot of hype and a lot of posturing and a lot of narrative control, but not a lot of here's the bare facts. And this is what the actual implication of these bare facts would be. And I could not find anywhere where the actual ruling was published. If somebody else has that, I would appreciate a copy of it, because then we can go over that in another show. But we'll go over what is available. And I will say this ahead of time. We are neither here to hate on Andrew Tate or promote Andrew Tate. I don't give a rat's ass about his philosophies, beliefs, and all that stuff. That's his business, and anybody that decides they want to listen to him, that's their business. I don't necessarily advocate for or against people selling what they consider to be self-help stuff and other people choosing to buy it. You are responsible for yourself if you make those decisions. But when it comes down to it, the guy could be the world's biggest asshole. He could be the dumbest guy on the planet. He could be the biggest scam artist on the planet. He could be all of those things. And I wouldn't care when it comes to discussing due process, because none of those things apply to a person's right to the same processes in the court system, unfettered by bias, that everyone else has. So we're going to discuss that tonight. We're going to discuss the implications of the way his case has been handled, and we're also going to talk a little bit about, if you face a false allegation, what's the one thing you can do to discourage future false accusers? And because Mr. Tate did that. And it looks like it's going through. But before we get into all of that,
to some degree, we're here to talk about whatever people are talking about.
Yeah.
Even if we're not particularly enamored with whatever subject people are talking about. The chat is saying that they can hardly hear me. I consider this a sound check. I'll wait for the chat to confirm that they can now hardly hear me.
Yeah, that's important, because I don't have anything on OBS telling me that you're too quiet. So OBS is actually telling me that I'm too loud quite frequently. It's going up into the red. So I don't know if I
was going to say that you're a little
loud
loud for me. So maybe it's a comparison thing, but I can hear you both fine.
It's kind of weird.
Chat, help us out. Why have you got
Yeah.
so quiet?
Turn the volume up.
Okay, it's better now.
Doc is lower but better now. That's good. Mr. 303 has like pointed out that, okay, so I'm going to minimize this and I have like a bunch of tabs open here, so bear with me a second, because I can't find the one that has the restream chat. I don't think I closed it. There it is. Okay. I'm like, I can't tell what the restream is saying. Yeah, Amasong said he's had that issue with OBS. Concrete shoes. I don't know what that's in reference to, Richard Bier, but it sounds ominous. One of these days... No, I probably won't explain the family member I had that was actually killed by the mafia. I will just say that a part of my family is firmly entrenched in New York. We'll leave it at that. But in any case, you had to mention concrete shoes, and they don't always. That's stereotypical though. Sometimes they like taxis. But in any case, let's get into the rat killing here. Oh no, we have to go through our little spiel first, so you guys know what I've told you 1,000 times. So, before we get into it, we gotta do what we gotta do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences, both recent and long past, have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platforms tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justatip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. Gabriel, no, it's not the Hatfields and the McCoys again. This was a true situation. We'll just say that my family member did something stupid. But in any case, so now we are going to get to the rat killing. This is the most accurate thing that I have seen published about the story. It says this is from a KULR8.com. It's I believe a television station's website, and this is just AP feed. That's a bunch of things that AP sends out this to all broadcasters. They send out, you have to pay for it, but this concise summary of most or all of their news stories, their world news. And it's a lot of times people, radio stations in particular, will just like read it off verbatim. I used to do that when I was on radio at my university. The radio that we did at my university wasn't anything prestigious. We actually broadcast through the phone lines, and you could only hear us on campus. We weren't subject to the Federal Communications Commission's regulations for station identification and stuff like that. But it was a way for people who were trying to learn what they needed to learn in order to be licensed to do that, to get training and practice in. And so we did a lot of station identification, all the things that you would have to do. And it was actually a school that was started and run by the Mennonite Church. You didn't have to be Mennonite to go there, because I wouldn't have been able. But so it had a lot of restrictions. It actually had more restrictions. But one of the things we did used to do was we got this AP feed. And the reason I know that you have to pay for it to get it is because when the university decided that it wasn't worth it, they quit paying for it, and then we quit having access to it. So, but this says, Bucharest, Romania. A court in Romania has ruled that prosecutor's indictment against influencer Andrew Tate contains multiple irregularities. It gives them less than a week to amend or withdraw the case of alleged human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women. The ruling by the Bucharest Court of Appeal is a major setback for Romania's anti-organized crime agency, which must act within 5 days. Tate and his lawyer are celebrating. Tate has denied all the allegations. So all of these things are true. The lawyers are faced with having to recollect a bunch of statements. They can't use a bunch of things they confiscated. And there are some other things that have been basically thrown out that they're going to have to replace. And doing that in 5 days is going to be a hell of a challenge.
It would be nice if the mainstream media who reports on this had to add a sort of legal clarification, like Sonny Hostin did on The View recently, twice when she repeated a bunch of bullshit about Matt Gaetz. It'd be nice if every media mainstream out there that goes, Andrew Tate has been accused of all if they then had to come back 2 minutes later and say, our lawyers have told us to say that Andrew Tate has denied all these allegations. Oh, wasn't that a beautiful moment? Wasn't that a beautiful couple of moments?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, being accused doesn't make you guilty, right? Now, what's interesting is feminists will claim this man is a representative of all men, right? And they'll claim he's popular, and they'll cite him as an example of masculinity and why masculinity is toxic, right? They will ignore billions of other men to focus on this guy while doing nothing to counter any popularity that he is actually acquiring. Because, to be fair, he is popular, and he's popular partly because he is calling women on their bullshit. And it doesn't matter whether we like the way he's doing it or not. Doesn't matter whether we like what he's marketing or not. If you create a void where boys are constantly told that their masculinity makes them bad, and that girls' femininity makes them good, and that they have to defer to women and girls' sensibilities at all times, but theirs don't matter. If you create a circumstance in which they have no pathway to forming relationships with the opposite sex that seems legitimate and is going to not result in them getting into some kind of trouble. If you create a circumstance where there is no right thing they can do, and there is no good thing they can do, and there's nothing they can do to avoid being browbeaten by the women around them and greater society in general, the men that are older than them and so on, you create a void by denying them all sense of positive identity and all sense of positive masculinity. The first guy who seems popular with the ladies and who talks tough and has very much confidence in his proposed solutions to their problems, they're going to listen to him. It's the one thing, the one and only thing, that Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate have in common. Well, there's two things, actually. They both have said things that are wrong, and they both have said things that are correct. So they've got two things in common. And unfortunately, in both cases, people's reactions have been dumb, in my opinion, to a lot of what they've had to say. So that's our first thing is we've settled the bare facts are that the court has ruled the prosecutor's indictment contains irregularities, a bunch of evidence was thrown out, they're being given the opportunity to fix that and then bring the case back to court. And they have 5 days from the date that this occurred. So they're already into that 5 days. So we'll see if they can do it or not. There isn't anything else that applies here. There's not some other bit of information that has come out that changes anything about this. But let's look at what the lawyer for the Tate brothers has to say. So, I wasn't 100% sure. I haven't really been following the case that much. When various not social media, but search engines promoted what this guy had to say. It's like, why are they promoting this guy specifically? So I finally went to the Tate brothers feed, and lo and behold, Tristan Tate tweeted this out as the most accurate description of what happened. And he does introduce himself as their attorney. And I don't think he'd have tweeted it if he wasn't their attorney. So that's how I confirm this before I go into it. For anybody else that was really not following the case, because I really was not following the case, that's confirmation that this is the official statement from their camp. So and you guys are watching my screen, right? Mike and Lauren?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
See if I can get this to play. We may have the same problem we had before because I didn't download this. See what happens. It's not very long. It's 3 minutes, so shouldn't be a big problem.
This is Joseph McBride, counsel for Andrew and Tristan Tate. Andrew and Tristan have maintained since the inception of the nefarious Romanian criminal case against them for human trafficking that they are 100% innocent and that all the allegations against them are unequivocally false. Today, a Romanian judge ruled that the lion's share of the evidence against them will be excluded from the trial phase. This is huge news, folks. This means that the vast majority of the allegations, especially the allegations by the female co-conspirators who lie through their teeth and out of their rear ends about the allegations against Andrew and Tristan, cannot be used.
They do have teeth down there. I knew it.
Hey, they probably have more teeth than I do. They're younger. But yeah,
through their teeth and out of their rear ends. They say women have teeth down there, and that is
you've heard of vagina dentata. Well, I suppose
you never go near them. They'll chew it off. It's true.
There you go. All right.
This torpedoes, explodes, decimates. It is a fatal blow to the Romanian prosecution against Andrew and Tristan.
So the one thing I'll point out here, because I've been involved in way too many court cases for one person. Yeah, they spelled innocent as innocent but let's point out here, this sounds more like the monologue in a of one of the wrestlers in a pro wrestling match than an attorney, and I'm aware of that, but
I think it's just because of the way this guy sounds.
It doesn't.
I think it's just...
There are different ways that different lawyers handle things. Some lawyers don't want you to talk about their case at all, right? They was like, we're going to keep mum about this until we go to trial. We don't want media bias. We don't want media influence in the court. And I've seen that a few times, more than a few times. Like, everything can come out afterward, but keep mum about it until that happens. And a lot of times that's when they're defending a client that is accused of something serious, very serious like this, where they're fighting a hard case. There's a lot of evidence that is circumstantial, and it's one of those where a prosecutor is trying to parlay a preponderance of evidence into beyond a reasonable doubt when the preponderance of evidence is all flimsy. And I've seen that more than once in cases that, I've talked to guys about what they can do to help their lawyer make his case. And the thing that, my biggest piece of advice to guys is never stop documenting. Once you know you're dealing with someone you can't trust, keep receipts, keep recordings, keep all communications, emails, text messages, everything. And, make sure it's organized. If you get paperwork from the individual or from the other side, keep that. It's all very important that you have all of the information that your attorney needs to draw on in order to fight your case. And I've even recommended to guys, get yourself a loose leaf binder, maybe like 2 inches thick or more, and every piece of paper that is remotely related to your case, even if it's something that actually probably isn't going to be usable, have it, keep it in plastic sheeting, put it in that binder, put a label on it that says what it is and when it happened. Organize it by date or topic, the things that you are using, the things that you aren't. Work with your lawyer on organizing it if necessary. Like, in one instance, I had a guy who was written up at work because his false accuser came in and raised a ruckus. Like, she was obviously terrified, so terrified of him that she had to be wherever he was, right? And he got the write-up. He got his copy of the write-up. And I was like, yeah, that should go in your file. Because if she's arguing that she's so scared of you that she needs a restraining order, and she showed up at a workplace that she didn't have to go to because she knew you were there in order to start an argument with you in public, and it affected your standing at work, that's relevant to your case. Your attorney might want that information, might want to hand that information and say, if she's so scared of him, why'd she show up here? And it turns out the attorney did want that information, and it was used in the case, and it did contribute, at least in part, to the dismissal of the restraining order, because if you need a restraining order to keep someone from coming near you, that means that you don't want to be near them. And if you go near them, then you're proving that you're not averse to being near them. Duh. So yeah, this is it's not what I'm accustomed to as like the norm, but I've seen it before, and it does not indicate an attorney that doesn't know what he's doing or isn't professional. I think it's connected to the personality of the people he's representing. They probably had the money to shop around, and they found an attorney that they liked, and probably an attorney that they could identify with somewhat. So this, his style is similar to their style. Play.
The Romanian court gave the Romanian prosecutors 5 days. The clock is ticking, folks. 5 days to cure the defects in their evidence, whether it has to do with the integrity of the evidence, how the evidence was obtained lawfully versus unlawfully, or the absolute barrage of inconsistencies of the witness statements against Andrew and Tristan. Folks, they're not going to be able to cure these defects. The Romanian case has been falling apart for a long time. It was just dealt a fatal blow. It is not going to be able to recover. Andrew and Tristan Tate are innocent. This is why they sued for defamation in Florida against the female co-conspirators who defamed them, both in Florida and in Romania and in other places throughout the world.
So before we go on with more of his statement, that brings up... Now, this is from Radio Free Europe. I don't know if it's showing... It doesn't show on the screen up here, but it probably shows for my co-host, but it's not showing for the live stream. So everybody's asking who's the third Badger. Well, I don't know which ones are the first two, but to repeat the introduction here, it's me, Hannah. Then we have the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson, who is the panda in the image. You kind of have to know a little.
Dr. Random account. I'm famous from the intranet and shit.
Yeah, you'd have to know the cartoons that Mike made for us. And actually, if you haven't seen them, you absolutely have to go watch them. They're great.
Yeah, they're kind of lame. But...
No, they're not. I actually really found them hilarious. And then we have Lauren Brooks, the nonsense annihilator. No one cuts through bullshit better than Lauren. So you guys know.
The chat can see this article, by the way.
Yes, the chat can see the article. I don't know if they can see the Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty header at the top, though. I think they can't because it's covered up by the More Badger banner.
Yeah.
But so that's where this comes from. That's the source. And actually it says by AP. So, defamation case filed by Tate brothers can proceed. Florida judge rules. If you thought Florida man was interesting, by the way, sometime just go through and look up Florida judge. Florida judge has to have never-ending patience because of how frequently Florida judge has to deal with Florida man and Florida woman.
Oh, God, yeah. The body cam footage that comes out of that state absolutely proves it. Hoo-wee.
We rag on Florida, but I'm from Ohio, and I shouldn't do that because Florida man might try to eat your face, right? But Ohio man will plaster it with a hot pizza as by means of assault. So Florida man is weird and scary sometimes. Ohio man can be kind of just ridiculous. Although Ohio woman will bite your balls off, so that's a little weird too.
Don't get me started on British man. He will call jihad on you of the worst kind.
Wait, I thought that was Asian man.
No, it's a British man.
That's
what they're called in the media.
Okie dokie. Well, in any case.
Ironically, we're talking about a Muslim right here. There are many reasons I don't like Andrew Tate. And,
yeah.
That's one of them.
Yup. This picture, it looks like he's a teacher in front of a classroom full of students that all did the same bad thing at once, and he is just about to unload on them. But that's just not who this guy is. In any case, so a judge in the U.S. state of Florida ruled on July 24th that a defamation lawsuit filed by internet influencer, everybody calls him internet influencer, all the stuff he did before he was an influencer doesn't matter, Andrew Tate against a Florida woman who accused him of imprisoning her in Romania, can go to trial. So he's suing her in Florida, and if I understand correctly, she's in Florida. So she I don't know how she's in prison in Romania. She's in Florida. The judge ruled that the former professional kickboxer, finally they actually mention his previous existing stuff, and his brother Tristan, 36, so 37 and 36, can present their allegations to a jury that the woman in 2022 engaged in a plot to extort money from them. The British-American brothers say the woman falsely accused them of human trafficking and rape, costing them their freedom and millions of dollars in income from their social media ventures. The brothers are currently awaiting trial in Romania on charges of human trafficking, rape, and forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women. So, yeah, here we go. Everybody's talking about whether or not we're on the right. Everything that isn't communist is on the far right now. If it's not out and out, full-on communist, you're on the far right, and communism is apparently on the the cusp of the left, or it's centrism. Communism is centrism. That's what we get told by the media.
See if you can describe politics without using the highly reductive false dichotomy of left and right. It's actually not that difficult, folks.
So my political position is chaotic neutral. It doesn't have anything to do with left and right. I'm just chaotic neutral.
How is it chaotic if it's neutral?
Chaotic neutral means you're not chaotic good or chaotic evil.
You fuck shit up for no particular reason.
Yes. There we go. Lloyd Devine, you nailed it. Oh my God, that is the most accurate statement about the way women treat intimate partnership today. Every relationship is trafficking to women. In fact, it's not even limited to intimate partnership. Women who experience motherhood will treat their experience of motherhood as being enslaved. If they have to get a job, getting a job makes them enslaved. If they don't have to get a job, being a homemaker makes them enslaved. Right? There is no pathway you can open up for a woman that women will not call being trafficked one way or another. But by God, if you consider being drafted a form of human trafficking, if you consider that enslavement, they have all kinds of nasty things to say to you about it. How dare you? So, yep, they have been... This is where I'm going to come in, though, and say, if you get accused of something and you didn't do it, and not only is the individual who accused you unable to manufacture a case against you that puts you in danger of being convicted falsely, but you can conclusively prove your innocence. For instance, in the 7 Years in Hell case, the accuser at one point claimed that on a certain day, at a certain time, the victim broke into her residence and violently raped her, and then he was able to present video evidence proving that during that day and that time he was in a pharmacy at another location nowhere near her residence. Under that circumstance, that should result in a lawsuit every single time. Every woman who does that, every accuser who does that, everyone who goes to the cops and tells a lie about another person that results in any kind of investigation, arrest, any prosecution, anything like that. The victim, if they can bring forth evidence that the accuser not only lied, but undeniably knew that what they were saying was false, should sue. Sue for the maximum you can sue for. And if you're in the United States, the stalking and harassment part of the Violence Against Women Act applies here, because it's reasonable to expect that if somebody accuses you of a heinous crime that you didn't commit, that would result in substantial emotional distress. And if they pursue a case, that's a course of conduct. It's not just one thing. It's not something they do in the moment. So if somebody engages in a course of conduct that could be reasonably expected to cause the victim substantial emotional stress, substantial emotional distress, that makes them guilty of stalking and harassment under the Violence Against Women Act. And there is a clause in the Violence Against Women Act that says that you can't discriminate as law enforcement or as a prosecutor against a victim for being male. So once the victim proves that the allegation against him is false, he should then file a complaint for stalking and harassment. So Tate did half of what my suggestion is. He sued. And that's the easier half, because you can file a complaint with police and they can just choose not to bring a case. Now, you can sue the department for discrimination if they choose not to bring a case because you're a man. But when it comes to civil suits, the department cannot turn around and say, nope, we're not filing a complaint. So if you face this situation and you can make a case for defamation, do it. If you can make a case for harassment, do it. If you can make a case for stalking, do it. And if the state discriminates against you in terms of prosecution for these things, sue them too. That's the only way
Yeah.
to create consequences for this, for false accusers.
Yeah, and you have to. That's why they get away with it, because people they won't pursue it. It's like the people who call the cops, but then when the cops get there, oh, I don't want to press charges. Well, what in the world are you calling in there for? You know what I mean? These people that don't face consequences, they do it over and over and over again.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. If a few women get bankrupted because they lied about a guy and he came back and held them accountable for it, pretty soon it will have a chilling effect on false accusers. It won't have any effect at all on victims of actual violent crimes, because there will be evidence for their cases. When they report to police what has happened, that evidence will be collected, and it will be used against the perpetrator in court. So feminists, when they complain about this, and they say, oh, this will have a chilling effect on victims. No, it won't. It will have a chilling effect on perpetrators. Filing a false allegation with police, filing a false complaint with police, is a crime. At least in the United States it is, and it is in the UK, it is in Canada. Anywhere that English common law was the influence behind the development of the legal system, there is some definition or standard under which filing a false complaint with police is a crime. Whether it's because you lied to police, whether it's a law against filing a false complaint, whether it's a law against wasting police time, all of those, it qualifies as all of those things. And then if you present false evidence, if you manufacture evidence, the accuser in the 7 Years in Hell case did that too. She made a recording of another guy's voice and then tried to turn it in as evidence of something that the victim did. And it was such a lame effort that the accent made it obvious that not only was it not the victim, but it was a guy who was a different race than the victim. It was that bad. So yeah. And the courts do not hold these women accountable for this, right? She broke just about every process law. She committed just about every process crime she could commit under U.S. law. And every time his attorney said, is she going to be held accountable by the court for perjury, for submitting manufactured false evidence, for lying to police during an investigation, for filing false complaints? Nope. The local domestic violence victims advocate that was assigned to her case strong-armed the court and basically threatened to sue the court for discrimination against a domestic violence victim because she's a woman, if they hold her accountable for breaking the law in this case. So the only recourse that you have is filing a lawsuit. Now, in the 7 Years in Hell case, what they did was they gathered every last shred of paperwork that they had to deal with because of this woman from the courts. For those who haven't read this, this is a case that I wrote about in 2013 on the Voice for Men website. So you probably can find it by searching the Voice for Men website for my name and 7 Years in Hell with 7 spelled out. But if not, my original A Voice for Men account name was Gloria Sass. It's an old prank name. If you don't know why it's funny, say it fast. And there's a story I'm not going to tell behind that, but I did tell it on the site. I've told it here before too. But in any case, that case was the reason that I went from just being, anti-feminist to being a men's rights activist. Because that case demonstrated to me, and it's the reason that I ended up looking into the policy and the law to figure out why I kept seeing this happen to people I knew. That I realized that activism needed to occur to get people to get behind changing the law, because the law is facilitating this kind of thing. Now, I don't know. Romania is a different story. I'm not intensely familiar or intrinsically familiar with the court system or the legal system in Romania. I know that it has in the past been entirely corrupt, and my impression is that it still is very corrupt. So I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's interesting.
Yeah,
it's an interesting turn of events.
They were ravaged by the communist revolution, along with every country in Russia's vicinity, particularly under Ceausescu and all that. But they're coming off the back of it, which what makes them so different from countries like the UK and the USA, where they're just coming into it, where they're just discovering. The governments in charge of our countries are just discovering all the things that communists do, but they don't call it communism. They call it anything but communism, because it's conducted along the lines of sex and race rather than along the lines of class.
Right.
And despite everything we've yelled at them for the past 10, 11, 12 years or so, they're not quite getting it. And even those who are just open nominal communists, they still think this isn't communism. This is just, they call it progress. They call it political correctness. They call it woke. They call it all kinds of things, anything to disguise it from the thing that has destroyed every country it's ever ravaged. And this is the difference between these Eastern European countries like Romania and these Western European countries like us, and like USA and Canada are basically Western European countries at this point. And it's going to take us longer to get over it, because we're much bigger countries with much more geopolitical influence. But at some point we're going to suffer the same fate. We're going to see our countries utterly destroyed, and we hope we come out at the end of it by realizing that communism is to blame for all of this, or some iteration of communism, some retranslation of communism. But in Romania they've begun to escape the communism, and they recognize what it did to them. But at the same time, there's these leftover authoritarian corruptions that it's difficult for any government to let go of, because governments love corruption. They love anything that that can give them the wherewithal to enact absolute totalitarian power over their citizens, and to some degree they're still doing that, and they don't call it communism either.
No.
Like I say, in Romania they don't realize that they're still working with the leftover scraps of communism, while in Western Europe we don't realize we're dealing with the leading chunks of communism, and it's all hideous. It's all very difficult to describe, but there it is.
Yeah. Oh, it does. One way to help understand this, and it does always help to understand this, is to remember that every government is a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Government is corporatism without competition. In fact, government is owing your soul to the company store.
Yeah.
So there you go. And communism is basically a pyramid scam. At least authoritarian communism. I've never seen communism work without authoritarianism for even a short amount of time. So you have idealist communism that has never actually been tried, and then you have real-world communism, which is government-run authoritarian communism, and that's a pyramid scheme. So, but my ultimate point is, men, you gotta fight back. You cannot take this laying down. And it, like I said, it doesn't matter whether other people think you deserve it. You don't have to be popular. You don't have to be the guy that everybody loves and appreciates because he's done something great. You can be the biggest asshole who has no friends and has alienated everyone around him. And if somebody lies to police about you, and you get arrested for something you didn't do, you still should be entitled to due process. And you still should retaliate once you are able to prove a case. You should retaliate by filing a lawsuit. And in most cases, that's going to be a lawsuit for defamation, stalking, or harassment, or both, all three maybe. In the 7 Years in Hell case, what they sued for was vexatious litigation. When they took every piece of paper that had gone through the system targeting this man in for that case, they had 4 2-inch loose leaf binders. They had basically 4 reams of paper from 2 county court systems and 4 police departments. Because when one police department stopped accepting her bullshit, she just started with another one. And when one court system stopped catering to her bullshit, she started with another one. And so she started the case in Montgomery County, and it ended in Greene County. And it's when she was found to be a vexatious litigant. The judge ordered that she couldn't do anything else to him under the law. No allegations to police, no cases brought against him for any reason. She couldn't even pursue a child support case against him. He had custody of the child, so she couldn't even do that. The only thing that she could do was file for a reduction of her child support obligation. And that pretty much turned her into nothing but an angry noisemaker. And the last that I heard of her, she showed up at their child's graduation and had a childish temper tantrum in front of all the other parents, and everybody just kind of stared at her until she left. And that was it. That was all the power she had left, was the power to humiliate herself in public. So that is what needs to happen. Now, this method, documentation, organization, and fighting back, only works for the innocent. So there shouldn't be anybody objecting that this is an attack on victims. This is a means for victims to fight back against criminals. Filing a false allegation with police is a crime. Pursuing it in the court system is another crime. Presenting false evidence is a crime. Lying in court is a crime. So the target of those actions is the victim of a crime, or multiple crimes. The person perpetrating those actions is not a victim, and is not associated with victims, has nothing to do with victims, and victims are not a shield for her. So back to the attorney here. We have, I think a minute and a half left. Maybe 2 minutes. Depending on whether he just goes back to posturing.
We published the truth regarding what happened in Romania and the falsity of the allegations against Andrew and Tristan some time ago. The case is moving well through the Florida courts right now. The Romanian ruling today corroborates everything that we've been saying. These people, these women have been lying. Andrew and Tristan Tate are innocent. They have, in fact, been defamed. They were wrongfully accused, wrongfully canceled, wrongfully incarcerated, and they are entitled to damages. It is unconscionable that two men who love the country that they were born in, the United States of America, who love the country that they had grew up in, the United Kingdom, have been the targets of horrible character assassination attempts that have sought to take away their money and their freedom simply because they have a message of male empowerment that gravitates toward young men across the world.
So I do believe that that's why they were accused. I don't necessarily make a judgment call as to whether they're good men or not. We'll say that.
Yeah, that's I would not describe the Tates as good men, and I wouldn't describe them, morally speaking, as innocent men. That would be a naive thing to say. But legally speaking, they are innocent. The people they've exploited more than anything are the men that they deceive into simping for these whores on their online enterprise or whatever. These women knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were getting themselves in for, but they opportunistically decided to try and press charges. Perhaps not on their own. Perhaps they were goaded into it by certain legal officials or whatever, but far too many people overlook the stark fact that if the Tates are exploiting anyone, it's men. It's these online simps who fall for their bullshit. I think I'm legally allowed to call it bullshit.
Yeah.
The prostitutes that they're employing, and I think I can call them prostitutes, are willing prostitutes, and they were always willing prostitutes. They always had the option not to do this, but they went in and did it anyway for the same reason OnlyFans prostitutes do this, and I think I could legally call them prostitutes too. There's no shortage of women who are ready and willing to sell their bodies for extortionate amounts of money, and that's what's going on here. They did that to exploit men, and then they thought, oh, I could exploit the Tates as well, legally speaking, so I'm going to do that as well.
So I'll point out this. All right, I've worked in 2 bakeries, and in both bakeries we sold donuts, and we sold cakes and pies and cookies with way too much icing on them. This one type of brownie recipe that involved 3 layers of brownie with basically crack in icing form in between them, and it was all horribly unhealthy stuff that nobody should ever eat, right? And so I sold things to people that are the things that are basically responsible for causing people to gain the weight that then triggers metabolic disorders that they may be genetically predisposed to have, like, right?
RFK is gonna come and get you.
Yeah, I worked in 2 different bakeries. One of them was a standalone bakery. I didn't own it, but I did learn a lot there. And the baker was absolutely highly skilled. His stuff was delicious and marvelous and great. And I miss it very much because, the guy retired and then the bakery closed. But I also worked at a grocery store bakery, and that stuff was pretty formulaic. It was a lot of the items that we made, we pre-manufactured parts of the recipes and stuff like that. And so a lot of what I did there was open up big bags of the dry ingredients already mixed and dump them into a bowl, and then add the wet ingredients and mix it up and everything. So I was the one that made the donuts, getting up at 2:00 in the morning to get to the bakery, or arriving at the bakery at 2:00 in the morning, time to make the donuts, for all the Gen Xers that remember those commercials, right?
I definitely remember that commercial.
So was I exploiting sugar addicts? Or are people responsible when they consume something that is not healthy for them?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily state approval for all of that. in terms of, yeah, there's stuff that people should at least moderate their consumption of. If you want to eat a donut, eat a donut. Eating 27 of them is a bad idea. Eating a donut every day is a bad idea. But, you know, having a donut now and then isn't necessarily that big of a deal, right? And donuts are just bread that is sweetened and fried. There's not a whole lot of difference between yeast donuts and beignets. So, like, it's not that big of a deal. Now, the big deal then is when they put other things in the donuts that are unhealthy that you wouldn't put in when you're baking them at home, and that gets into a whole new ballgame there, right? But when it comes to porn, I have the same opinion, all right? If you have a lack of control over your consumption of this, seek help. You know, go to a doctor and get help. People do that when they have a lack of control over their consumption of sugar and other foods. They do it when they have a lack of control over their consumption of alcohol or drugs or their lack of consumption of any type of media, right? It's all pretty much the same type of weakness, vulnerability, and a rather large portion of the population has that type of vulnerability to something, even if it's not all the same stuff. It's not the fault of the people who create it and sell it when you consume it more than is healthy. I don't think that it's necessarily unhealthy for people to enjoy and appreciate sexuality and nudity and all that. What I do think is unhealthy is when it is your sole outlet, when it's something that you can't keep yourself from doing, and in circumstances where you experience negative consequences for doing it. And when it comes to the women involved, a lot of those women made a lot of money, right? A lot of those women had the benefits of living with a rich man, and they seemed to be able to go wherever they wanted to go and do whatever they wanted to do, right? That's now being imprisoned. And a lot of those women came forward and said, we're doing this voluntarily. We're with him because he makes us money. He makes us rich, right? That's pretty straightforward. That's not a victim, right? These women are not being exploited, and I don't consider the consumers of their product to be exploited either. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the smartest idea or the best idea to get involved in that profession, in that industry, unless you are prepared to handle the consequences of being involved in that industry. You have to be ready to deal with the fact that people have opinions about your character related to being in that industry. It's not something that you can dictate, right? You have to be ready to deal with the fact that people who consume the products of that industry and the services of that industry can have boundary issues. And so can the producers, the people that produce the products. You have to be prepared to stand up for yourself and set and defend your boundaries and enforce your interests. And you have to be prepared to deal with the fact that you're not going to be... You don't get to do that and then be viewed as a sweet, innocent, virginal little girl, right? And it should be understood that if you're going to be a star because you're sexy and you're willing to get naked, that you're going to lean into that and enjoy the attention because you're seeking attention, and enjoy the money and set your boundaries, and you define how you are going to form bridges of respect between yourself and the people around you. So it's not a profession for everybody. but I don't believe that it's an exploitative thing in and of itself. Now,
No.
that's
argument,
that's the
what would be an
imagery.
exploitative?
That's the imagery end of it. All right. But when you get into, and I don't know if the Tate brothers do this or not, because I've deliberately not become familiar enough with them. I know that OnlyFans does. A lot of OnlyFans models do this. The girlfriend experience. All right. If you are peddling the girlfriend experience, and you become aware that the person you're peddling it to has mistaken it for a real relationship, girlfriend relationship, it is unethical for you to continue to peddle that experience without drawing clear lines and making sure that your consumer is aware that the relationship is a pretense, that it's role play. And that when a woman or a man, it's usually women that do this, but when a seller of sexual material or companionship material or sex peddles the girlfriend experience, markets the girlfriend experience, and deliberately, knowingly, and willfully allows someone to mistake it for a real, intimate partnership in order to make money from them, that's exploitative. If you know that you have somebody coming in and demonstrating boundary issues and demonstrating a lack of control over their consumption and appearing desperate and showing symptoms of mental health conditions in relation to their consumption, and you don't cut them off, it's as exploitative as a bartender who continues to serve drinks to someone who is so drunk that they can't grasp the cup or the shot glass to pick it up and drink it. All right, the person who administers illegal drugs to the buyer because the buyer is already too high to do it for themselves. Right? That's exploitative. And it is the same thing with selling sex and selling relationships. Once you get into pretending that it's something that it's not, then you're a predator. And my understanding is that even if the Tate brothers are not having women do that, they are selling men formulas for success with women. That a lot of guys think this is 100% or close to 100% effective, and that they're protected from consequences of being with the wrong woman if they follow these rules and so on. And I don't think that the Tate brothers are unaware that that's not true. I think they're fully aware. I think they were, before they were falsely accused, I think they were fully aware that any man can face a false allegation. But by golly, they're aware of it now. So if they're still selling this idea that you can engage in a set of behaviors and practices that will prevent you from suffering the consequences of trusting the wrong woman, then that's exploitation. Every guy they sell that to, they're lying to that guy. And they know it, and they're taking his money and sending him off into an experience that, while they had the money to fight it, the vast, overwhelming majority of falsely accused men do not. Funding a defense is expensive. And it honestly needs to be part of your defense to file that suit. Because you won't be able to afford to do it after you're done. And so yeah, I don't think the production of porn is exploitative. I don't think that selling sex is any more exploitative than selling donuts or beer or cigarettes. But lying about it, definitely. And if you're lying about it in any way, shape, or form in order to increase the chances that people will buy it from you, then yeah, that's exploitative.
Yeah.
And prosecuting your employer for giving you a job when you could have got a different job.
That's pretty exploitative.
Another form of exploitation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've had a lot of different jobs in my life because I'm interested in too many things to just have one job, right? There's a lot of neat things to do in the world, a lot of stuff to try out, and a lot of ways to engage with people and interact with people. It kind of sucks that it has always been tradition for people to tie themselves to one thing and just do that for 30 years and then not try something else, right? But I mean, everybody has their own way of handling stuff, right? But in any case, yeah, there's no reason that, if you don't like what you're doing in your job, whether it's retail or porn, which both of them can be equally degrading and both of them can be equally rewarding, you find something else. Do something else. There's a gazillion other things out there to do. I have not been the secretary of Fight Club. We won't talk about how many fights I was in when I was a kid, though. Not good.
Now, I don't much care for like the whole porn thing. Like, if you are going to buy into whatever Andrew Tate is selling, you're going to be hard pressed to try to talk that person out of doing what they're about to do, right? I don't care if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to spend your time and your money. It's a free world. You have free will. Go enjoy whatever it is, right? But be smart about it, obviously. For me, it's the accountability. It's the lying, right? Because now we are in a position in society where it's offensive to even suggest that a woman could be lying about something like this when they so very often do. So that's why I'm really glad that they are suing these women or whatever the hell they're doing, but holding them accountable. Right? Because that's the only way that you stop this, right? And women just feel like they can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? It's just free reign. And who's gonna stop me?
Yeah. Right?
They push it further and further and further until someone actually puts their foot down. Right? And they don't like that. But that's tough. Tough titties. You know what I mean? You do the crime, you do the fucking time.
Yep.
That's it.
We got a salient Rumble rant from Nobafan here. Gave us $1 and said, people that solely blame Tate for men and boys listening to him is like blaming McDonald's when a vegan child discovers McDonald's burgers. It's unhealthy, right. But we can't pin all the blame on the result. I guess the bottom line is this. If you're not lying, if you're not telling somebody something that is not true, promising things that you can't deliver, and then shaming people into not holding you accountable when it doesn't pan out, all right, then it's the buyer who needs to take responsibility for choosing the product. Something that I would say in regard to this is there is only one real solution to the simping problem, and that is to arm boys intellectually and psychologically against the vulnerabilities that lead to simping. And our society has spent decades programming those vulnerabilities into them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the real reason that that the establishment is so angry with Tate, I don't think it has anything. He's citing Trump as the reason why he's starting to suddenly get better treatment in the court system, and that's a possibility because the due process violations, they can get away with due process violations against an American if you have a president in the White House that doesn't care about Americans in foreign countries. But in terms of the actual targeting, I think they targeted him because while he's not necessarily giving boys the best tools, he's giving them some tools. You know, and it's if you have a nail that needs to go into a board and you have nothing to hammer it in with, the guy that hands you a big rock may not be as good as a guy that comes along with a hammer or a nail gun and says, here, let me show you how to do this correctly. But he's better than nothing in the eyes of the person who needs that nail to be in that board. And that's basically what young boys are seeing, what young men are seeing. It's not about whether or not the guy's giving good advice. He's giving it in a vacuum. He's giving his advice in a vacuum where they are.
And I think just...
Go on.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, just the publicity of the whole case does wonders. You know what I mean? Because actually seeing a man hold these women accountable, maybe it will make something click in their brains. You know, oh, I don't have to just, you know, lay back and take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely. Go ahead.
So we have... go ahead.
Returning to the theme of McDonald's. McDonald's used to cook their fries in beef tallow. And they ended up changing it. I assume because vegans and vegetarians complained.
Nope.
But it was not disclosed to them that the fries were cooked in beef tallow.
It wasn't vegans and vegetarians. It was actually practitioners of a religious belief that precludes the consumption of any product that has beef in it or has touched a product that has beef in it.
All right, but rather than go on to tell people, by the way, our fries are cooked in beef tallow, they changed what they cooked it in, and you know what they cooked it in from there on after, right? Seed oils, our good old favorite seed oils, and ever since then they've been feeding people engine oil instead of beef tallow, and yes, seed oils are basically engine oil. It was used as an engine oil long before it was ever considered fit for human consumption.
Yep.
And which sort of just goes to show you, if you complain about the wrong thing in the wrong way, you'll end up getting poisoned even worse than you ever were. Like, for whatever reasons you thought beef tallow was bad for you, is nothing like as bad for you as seed oils. And this is all rather emblematic of everything else we're talking about. Like, your sort of your authoritarian need to change things just for the sake of changing things, when you have no idea why you're changing things or what you're changing them to, can wind you up in a far worse situation. And I guess I should try and say this all in the voice that I should try and say it.
Hey, be nice.
Like I like RFK in a lot of ways. I don't like him in a lot of ways. He's a politician at the end of the day.
Right.
So I still get to take the piss. And yeah, that opens a whole other tangent of should the government be allowed to disrupt private companies in this way and sort of tell them what they can and can't cook their fries in. And in a way, I'm kind of, it's much like the donuts thing, the selling people sugar thing, like or indeed selling people cigarettes. Like it's, as long as people know that cigarettes can kill them, it should be perfectly fine to sell people cigarettes, as long as people know that sugar and seed oils will make them fat and kill them. They should be allowed to do that. But they should, if you're going to enforce anything, it should be like letting people know, like giving them informed consent, as I believe it's called.
Yeah,
like,
any trade relationship that does not include informed consent is exploitation by the individual that's hiding shit. Very, very simple. Somebody didn't tell you the whole story in order to persuade you to buy something that you wouldn't buy if you had the whole story. You just got exploited. They're scamming you. That includes feminism. They aren't telling you the whole story either. In fact, they aren't even telling you the true story with the part that they are telling you. But yeah, in the case of McDonald's, I never really understood how that lawsuit was taken seriously. Because if I thought that if I was going into a restaurant for, I'm going to go out to eat, get some food and everything, and somebody was like, hey, let's go to Blood Diner. Oh, what do they serve? Well, they have soup and sandwiches, they have crackers, they have donuts, they have human flesh. Wait, what? You said human flesh? No, I don't want to go there. Well, you could get other stuff that's not human flesh. No, I'm not supporting a place that sells human flesh. That would be my response. Real simple. I don't care what else they sell. The minute you mention something that I find absolutely taboo and morally repugnant and horrifying, I'm not going in there. Well, everybody goes there. And if you want to socialize in this country, you got to go to Blood Diner. No, I'll eat at home. Thank you very much. You can come to my house and have dinner with me if you like. I will not be serving human flesh. Like, that's how I would handle it. It takes work, but yeah, that's just my opinion on the subject. Suing Blood Diner would not be in my purview, because it's not my relationship with them. I just simply won't support them. Right? And if you don't get the joke, look up Blood Diner. It's an old movie, and it's ridiculous, but you should see it at least once.
That's easy enough to do with something that you find morally repugnant, right? Or just against your beliefs, your religious beliefs or whatever.
Right.
But when it's something that is highly addictive, that's a different story. You know what I mean? Because people, listen, I know McDonald's is crap, and I
have heard that human flesh actually is highly addictive. I have no idea because I find it morally repugnant, and I'm not going to engage in cannibalism. I mean, like, that's just horrifying.
Right. But, I know I shouldn't eat McDonald's, but that doesn't stop me every once in a while from getting some fries every once in a while, even though I know that they're not good and they're cooked in that crap. It's hard to do, especially with things like food and when it comes to sex.
I actually can't chew their fries anymore. If I want to eat fries, I got to get steak fries and make them at home so that I can eat them without choking. That's pretty bad. But it is what it is. But back to the situation. I personally am not going to accuse the Tate brothers of exploitation for something they've done that's illegal. If it's illegal, that's a different story. I will if I find that they are misleading people into purchasing products or services that they're told is going to be one thing or have one effect, when in fact the truth is it's going to be a different thing and have a different effect. Very much like selling somebody a placebo and telling them it's going to cure their cancer or their bacterial infection or stuff like that. So, albatross, human meat being addictive, is one of the concepts behind the Wendigo myth.
The what myth?
The Wendigo is it's a Native American myth. It is an individual who indulged in human flesh and got so addicted to it they couldn't eat anything else, and like even chewed off their own lips. Like you look up the mythology around the Wendigo, you'll see what I'm talking about. Terrifying creatures, like living zombies, basically. But that said, we still have a few seconds here left. I think he's just going to be posturing, but we'll go through it.
Everything that we have said about Andrew and Tristan Tate is true. They are innocent. A Romanian court has now found the allegations against them are based in fiction and were improperly obtained, and that there is a multitude of problems with the credibility of the female witnesses against them. That case is about to be finished. The American case is about to get a lot stronger. And if you've been on the wrong side of this since day one, I encourage you now to get on the right side of history.
I just, most of the posturing I'm not a big fan of, but I just love that people on the right or associated with the right or using the illusion of being on the right to bolster their popularity or their cases or whatever, taunt the left with that right side of history statement every time. So yeah, I think this is it. He's just posturing. Now, he's going to make declarations because he's an attorney, and this is the case that he's supporting. He's going to make declarations that aren't necessarily supported by what's been reported about the case. He also is going to know things about the case that haven't been reported, so he may be confident making these declarations. And I guess within a few days, we're going to find out what the prosecution does, whether they are able to actually duct tape and bail wire their case back together, whether they can get all of the stuff replaced that was taken away from them in terms of, you can't use this, you can't use that, or whether their case is wrecked and they're just going to drop it. And we're going to see a bunch of news articles come out of this, too. Let's see, I already did the defamation case thing. I don't know if we're going to go through and try to read through the whole... this article gives more of a... if I remember right, more of a listing. This is the Daily Mail, so grain of salt, guys, but that's true about any establishment media, and it's hard to find anything that isn't straight from the Tate brothers camp versus established media. There doesn't seem to be any independent coverage of this. So, let's see... the court's decision to exclude key evidence and demand rectification of the indictment demonstrates the lack of substantiated claims against them, is what the lead counsel said. Let's see if it... I was sure it gave a list of specific things. Some of it was the witnesses. That they basically said, these witnesses' statements were made improperly and you have to get them under the proper circumstances. Like, they got statements from women without telling them that they were making statements about a man who was being charged with human trafficking. And so the women didn't get the opportunity to refrain from incriminating him if by inference or implication, without, overt statements of incrimination. If they had wanted to be careful of their words. So, let's see. Everything they appealed, apparently, got given to them. But I was sure this is where I saw, and it might be, and it might just have been changed. Nope, it's not. So... Andrew Tate himself did give a list, and I read that, but I was looking for a different source. So this is probably what we're going to see a lot of. Whether the case continues or not, whether the prosecutors refile or fix stuff and pursue further or not, what we are going to hear a lot of is, fact check! Andrew Tate human trafficking case has not been dismissed. Andrew Tate has not been found innocent. Whatever comes up in the news, if they don't pursue a case, it's dropped because they lack sufficient evidence. We'll be told that it wasn't that there was not sufficient evidence; it's that the evidence all got thrown out of court. So here's where due process is of vital importance, absolutely vital importance, right? This man is never going to be able to fix his reputation. He is never going to be able to get people to accept a claim of innocence in regard to this set of charges, unless they already accepted it from the beginning, or unless they've at least already accepted it at this point. Right? If the case is dropped, everybody that was gunning for him to be convicted is going to declare him a guilty man who got away with a heinous crime. Right? That's what's going to happen. And because process crimes do not get prosecuted in cases where women make allegations of violent crime against men, this kind of reputational damage and permanent permanent reduction of somebody's reach, somebody's ability to engage with the public, that women get away with that, and they will continue to get away with that as long as men allow there to be no consequences. And I can assure you, even if I'm seeing he doesn't care, he just wants his freedom. The men that I know personally who have been through allegations that were false, defamatory, and damaging to their reputation, their earning capacity, they have all suffered for years afterward. 7 years in hell guy has post-traumatic stress disorder from his experience. He cannot hold a job. He has been permanently disabled by this experience. It's like saying you don't care, you want to survive a car accident. It's okay if you lost your legs. The fact that you want to survive, and the fact that you're glad that you didn't die, doesn't mean you're okay with the injuries that you experienced.
Yeah.
Right? It means that, something could have been worse. But even if it wasn't, it was still bad. I've seen guys go through suicide attempts because of false allegations. I know guys who have lost all of the relationships that they relied upon in their lives because of false allegations. I know one guy who lost his children, lost his ability to live in the community where the allegation happened, had to move, lost his ability to relate to his wife, his current wife, and is now getting divorced years after the ordeal. I know guys that have sat in jail. I knew a guy that sat in jail for a year on an allegation that basically was, I committed a crime against him because I was afraid of him. And it took a year for his appeal to free him. He lost family heirlooms that were near and dear to his heart and the hearts of other members of his family. He lost his whole career path. He ended up having to do something else because even just being arrested for what he was arrested for, having that on his record kept him from continuing to pursue his career path, even after he was acquitted. His conviction was overturned on appeal. So the damage that happens to men, men who are not wealthy, men who have very little resources, even men who are middle class, it's not the same for those guys as it is for somebody like Andrew Tate, who has millions at his disposal. He runs a media conglomerate and can be his own advocate, and can afford whatever lawyer he wants. The average falsely accused guy, his whole life changes. It's split between before the false allegation and after the false allegation. And it never goes back to just being the same, just being the way it was before. So, with that said, let's see what Newsweek has to say about this. And this will be like the last little bit. Romanian appeals court has found in favor of influencer Andrew Tate this week, who is facing multiple charges in Romania, including human trafficking and rape. On Tuesday, the Bucharest Court of Appeal accepted Tate's appeals and those of Tristan Tate. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's last name.
Manuela Nagel.
Is it Nagel? Okay, Manuela Nagel and Luana Radu in their case against Bucharest Tribunal's decision to advance their case to trial. The court cited significant irregularities. So even in trying to control the narrative, Newsweek still had to admit the irregularities were significant, right? In the prosecution's case and violations of the defendant's legal rights. Those legal rights are due process. Right. However, in the wake of the decision, misleading claims began appearing on social media, overstating the outcome of the court's ruling, the appeal court's ruling.
Misleading is one of those words a bit like misinformation.
Yes.
When you can't call it false or true, but you know it's true, but you want people to think it's false, you use these buzzwords like misleading or misinformation. They know what they're doing. That ironically, they are delivering misinformation by muddying the water as to whether it's false or true, when they know that in this case the allegations are false, but they want you to think they're true, or vice versa, or whatever. I can't remember.
Yeah. So here we go. Multiple posts on X, formerly Twitter, and the link just goes to their topic Twitter, not to any multiple posts. Posted on November 19th, 2024, claimed that Andrew Tate's human trafficking case had been dismissed.
Dun, dun, dun.
A post on X. So their social media posts is what they're reporting on. Newsweek is reporting on social media posts. This is a listicle in Newsweek. That would be Buzzweek. We can start calling them Buzzweek from now on, right? I don't know who these people are that they're citing. A post on X by Sulaiman Ahmed, viewed 414,000 times, said, "Breaking! The Tate brothers case has just been officially dismissed." DIICOT, I don't know what it stands for. So, Dicot was proven guilty of creating fake evidence against the Tate brothers. Congratulations! And then the ats. Another post by Dr. Anastasia Maria Lupus, viewed 86,000 times, included the same message as Ahmed, adding, "People who knows the Tate brothers told you this from the beginning."
Weird grammatical
Yeah,
error.
maybe not somebody whose first language is English. I don't know. Weird. Yeah, that's a weird grammatical error. American political commentator Jackson Hinkle, who I also have never heard of. It's never lupus. Said in a post viewed 259,900 times, "Breaking! The fake human trafficking case against Andrew Tate, ats, and Tristan Tate, ats, has been dismissed. Congratulations, gentlemen." So they've cited 3 posts that, and by their definition, went viral. This is a lot like what the hash or the subreddit shit Reddit says used to do. Like, they'd get mad and bitch about posts that got a lot of views that said things they didn't like. These claims are inaccurate. While the Bucharest Court of Appeal has ruled in favor of Tate, as reported by Reuters from Bucharest, its ruling states that some evidence from the case file, including victim statements and witness testimonies from the Tates, both deemed inadmissible, should be removed. The indictment file contained inconsistencies, improper descriptions of acts committed by female suspects, and missing details on the seizures of assets. That sounds a little corrupt right there. The court ruling states that the investigation office, DICOT, has 5 days to fix these irregularities and decide whether to send the case to trial or withdraw it. So the description that the Tate brothers have been giving is that they crippled the case and then gave them only 5 days to fix it if they want to continue. A lot of people are calling that dismissed. And dismissed might not be the technically accurate term, but if the description that the case was crippled by the court and the prosecutor was given insufficient time to uncripple it, if that's accurate, then that's a way to dismiss the case without overtly dismissing the case.
Sounds like a win to me.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
They go on in the article to just describe the allegations here. And the fact that there's a lawsuit and there's a UK arrest warrant, so they're not out of the woods. And then they rule the claim, which they could only find 3 people on the entire platform to cite as evidence that this claim is out there. And I imagine that Newsweek probably published this article because they couldn't get a community note put up.
And yeah, you needn't believe anything that the UK courts bring against you. It's pretty much known at this point that the UK is run by not just communists but full-on Stalinists.
Well, I mean, the UK court, the UK court in the civil suit that took place there ruled against Depp in that defamation case on the basis of the court's opinion that he was guilty of the abuse. He wasn't found guilty of the abuse, but the court's opinion that he was guilty of the abuse, and therefore it couldn't be defamation, if I understand correctly with that ruling. And then, in the American case, the evidence that was presented, the evidence that came out, in fact, even the evidence that his accusers' side provided, made it blatantly obvious that she was the abuser and he was the victim. Like, it's pretty hard to trust anything that the UK courts do after seeing that.
Indeed. It's lucky that I'm going to be leaving the UK in 2 days, bound for the land of the free. Given that Putin could start fucking bombing us any day now, as you may have discovered in the news recently, because given that the UK government supplied the rockets that were thrown into Russia, and Putin went, all right, well, this gives me authority to start bombing you. Thanks, Dharma. Fucking awesome. Like, I woe for my fellow countrymen, and it's a bloody good thing that I will be in Connecticut 48 hours from now, as long as everything goes to plan. I hope.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a terrifying prospect, and I mean, Gen X grew up under in the United States grew up under constant. Russia's going to bomb us any day now. Russia's going to bomb us any day now, to the degree where our popular media included music with titles like "I hope the Russians love their children too." It's really kind of a depressing. If you ever heard that song, it's intended to point out that mutually assured destruction acts as a deterrent to nuclear war, and it did act as a deterrent. It never, played out that we were going to the bombing that we were going to experience never happened. In fact, the only nuclear bombs that were ever dropped anywhere in the United States were dropped by our own government. Just pregnant pause there.
As you do.
As you do, right? But we did have that constant. You're all gonna die. Right? You ever want to hear the way that we reacted to it? Listen to Weird Al Yankovic's "Happy Birthday."
It's worth pointing out that the UK did nuke the USA a couple of times, but
on purpose
because of all those nuclear tests that were going on in Nevada back in the 50s. So the UK dropped a couple of nuclear bombs on Nevada.
Yeah, those were part of the nuclear test, but that was really our own government's doing, because our own government that was permitted, right? So it was in conjunction with the U.S. government. I still blame my government for that. The only people that have ever dropped a nuke on our country was our own protectors.
The vast majority of nuclear bombs have been dropped on America by America, or on Russia by Russia.
And that's not to that's the bombs, right? There's also nuclear accidents that we won't talk about. Yep.
Not to mention all the ones that are yet. Not to mention all the ones that are yet to happen.
Yeah,
just call me Mr.
Butterfingers. Yeah. So there you go. But yeah, I think we're gonna call it at this. I don't want to go any further into it. We do have a bit of information that we're going to go into in a future show. That I found it while I was looking for the Tate stuff, and it's a PDF. It's huge. If what I'm seeing is correct when I look at it, it's a big file. It's not a small file, but it is a anti-bullying organization, has a publication that is intended to be disseminated to schools, to educational facilities, and educators to use to combat the influence of the men's rights movement, of pickup artists, and of Andrew Tate. And these guys are all dangerous. I think they might mention Jordan Peterson in it too, because, obviously telling young men to take responsibility for themselves and clean up their act is just as bad as telling them that women are stupid and it's okay to take advantage of them because they're too dumb to defend themselves, which I don't know if Andrew Tate actually said that. I keep getting told by feminists that he absolutely did. The only people that I've seen actually say that are the people quoting it as something that Tate said. So yeah. We are gonna have to dig into that and see what they're telling your kids' teachers to say to your sons and do to your sons in order to prevent them from listening to anyone with an alternative viewpoint on how to be men from what the school wants to promote. So let's see, we also have one more Rumble rant. NovaFan21 gave us $1 and said, I always found it silly when feminists and lefties claim all work is unethical slavery because of capitalism, but also support porn because sex work is real work. Which is it? And so let's look and see if we got super chows, because we always get super chows. Alright, and I am way too far down in the list of 1,000 channels here. Chats. Okay. Alright. A lot of these are from yesterday. Nope. We don't even have Meredith G's usual super chat. Or super chow. So everything there is done. Unless they're not coming through when they should. I'm going to look on my laptop because my desktop I have chosen not to upgrade to a newer computer. As long as that one's working, I'm not spending the money. So it uses System 8, and Discord and System 8 aren't friends anymore. So let's see here. Super Chows. My laptop's mad at me now. Nope, nothing showing. Okay, so hopefully, nothing is missed. Hopefully, it's not hiding stuff from me that I should be seeing. But it appears that we do not have any super chows, and I don't think we got any super chats either from YouTube. I didn't see any go flying by in our chat. So, oh yes, we did, and I missed it. Master Rogue gave us $2 USD and said, "I simp for no one." And then in brackets, Prim smiles, "My queen!" So I'll be honest. Like, I've hung out with Prim at different events and everything. It's hard for me to not simp for her. She's a sweetheart, and she's adorable. And she's got that combination of just being a genuinely nice person and also being attractive. Like, I'll give you a pass on that one.
I've been to her house. We played board games.
Yeah.
Myself and Serge, we played board games with her and her husband. Yeah, I can't. As much as I want to sort of say no, she's not all that she seems. No, yeah, she kind of is.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
That's
so
a good litmus test. If you hang out with Prim and somebody meets her and then later tells you that they don't like her, don't trust that person.
Her house is huge, by the way.
Good.
She lives in Calgary.
That's awesome.
And it's like 3 fucking stories. It's an amazing house. She's doing so well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. She worked so hard to get there.
Yeah, she doesn't have to rely on Honey Badger Radio.
No.
She's living the life, and I wish her well.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that. She really studied hard. She worked really hard to get through school, and her work is very helpful to the people that she provides care for. So, yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with simping for Prim. Just be aware that she's not gonna simp back. So, but with that, I think that's everything. Actually, while we're at it, since we're talking about her, she does have a YouTube channel. It is called The Prim Reaper. It is linked in our low bar, so if you scroll down in our low bar and find where we have put the link to Prim's YouTube channel, we have a bunch of links in there, people that have been associated with us or still are. I don't think mine's in there because I think I took it out of the list since I'm not adding anything to it. I haven't added anything to it in a long time. But yeah, no, Prim does therapy for men, and she's very, very perceptive. So very, very smart. So that makes her very able to help people. But yeah, definitely check out her YouTube channel. And she even sounds cute. But with that, we will go ahead and call it the end of the show. Thanks everybody for listening. I know that Tate's a controversial topic, and I know that there are people in the movement that really want to defend him, and there are people in the movement that really want to hate on him. But for us, it's really about due process and how to handle false allegations. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, this is one of those situations where if somebody actually does what he's accused of doing, due process is important because you need confirmation so that they can never lie about being innocent effectively enough to con any more people. But if he's innocent, if he is innocent of what he's accused of, due process is important so that the state where he's living does not waste a bunch of money and time and energy wrongly jailing a man for something he didn't do. And it's important that no man gets thrown into that rabbit hole, and no taxpayer has to pay for that kind of abuse. to be done to somebody. So there you go. It doesn't matter whether we like him or not. It matters whether he was treated fairly in the court system.
Yes.
So with that, thank you all and good night. And see you next... Well, we won't see you next Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. There will not be an HBR Talk next Thursday. I might be... Yeah, might be doing something else on Friday depending on whether or not the other Badgers come up with something. But if not, we will see you next Tuesday.
Men's rights activists
Happy
are
Thanksgiving.
machines.
And happy
dude,
Thanksgiving.
Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.